Evening, it's 9 o'clock and 107.1 FM. We're getting ready to rock and roll. And straight up, right? Guess what? We have the former Minister of Finance, the Honorable Winston Jordan, is going to be with us. He wants to respond to that guy, that little guy. Yes, that little guy, Bharat Jagdeo, and those cronies in the installed PPP regime. And then there's something that's tickling. Uh, I don't want to. I don't want to say this, but I hope it's. I'm going to say it anyways, but I hope it's wrong. That senior members in the Guyana police force, senior members are, you know, they are allegedly giving out passports to notorious individuals with fake names. I hope it's not true. All right, I'll be back. I'll be back with Straight Up. I'll be back with our guest, and you can do the honorable thing, which is to share the link. And I'll start off with a favorite song. It's probably the only song without any copyrights infringements, right? So this is it. I don't play it for any other reason because I don't like to be reminded by Facebook that I violated some copyright laws. So share the link. Let's get ready to rock and roll with some serious, serious political business. And I do mean serious.
Pulling on. I feel it, I feel it, I feel it. 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 my brain. I wanna do my thing. Work up a sweat until I soak in wet. Rub your body, show no mercy, because I'm feeling tipsy, I'm feeling freaky. I wanna rub my body on your body. I wanna rub my body on your body.
If you are looking to have your statutory declaration, affidavit of income, identity, damage or lost passport, lost license, tenancy agreement, agreement of settlement, power of attorney, last will and testament, and certification of documents, then you need to visit the Alistair Collins firm, located at the Killian Mall, 162 Lamaha Street, in Georgetown, between Camp and Waterloo Street. Alistair Collins is a commissioner of oaths and a justice of the peace. Make certain you visit him or call for more information at 649-6410 or 685-6448 or 503-1451. And there's adequate parking available. Go down to the Alistair Collins firm and have all of your legal issues settled and brought to the fore. Alistair Collins Firm. Contact them at Alistair Collins Firm.
All right. Hey, guess what? I don't want to get you guys waiting any longer. We begin by saying good evening to all of you. And don't forget the Village Voice, right? And every time there is a photo of a business here, we ask that you go out and support those businesses. All right. So let's begin. Should we begin with a prayer? Seriously, should we begin with a prayer? And if we do begin with a prayer, maybe we will hear from Donald Ramatar. Right? We probably may hear from Donald Ramatar, who may say that there should be no prayers, absolutely no prayers at all. Good evening. Absolutely no prayers, right? This is how we start off a bit mischievous, but not only mischievous, it is serious business. Look, Dinesh Jaiprashad, the Honorable Member of Parliament, who is also a pundit, and he is preparing for Diwali, right? Diwali, happy Diwali to all of our Hindu brothers and sisters. I kind of like Diwali, right? And I'm not going to be one of those individuals who's going to mix up Diwali with Phagwa and all these things, or Phagwa with some other holidays. It's not going to happen. I know my holidays, right? And I know it is Deepali or Diwali, whatever you want to call it, okay? Happy Diwali to all of you. Diwali, that is. It's Diwali, mind you. Good evening to that former Minister of Education who kind of mixed up Phagwa and so forth, right? It was a mix-up. I'm sure she knows the difference. But gosh, Guyanese are not easy people, man. You guys are not easy people. Gosh, all sorts of names you call her, right? Phagwali, Diswali, whatever. But it is Diwali. I remember as a young boy growing up on the quarantine, a little boy, we always look forward for that, and we lit diyas and all these things. And when we did the diyas, we were looking in the nights. It was very, very dark, right? And so, hey, it is what it is. We are no longer little boys, right? But we still enjoy all of the holidays in Guyana. And so, I started off with that little light note to say, can I start this show with a prayer? But Donald Ramatar might be looking, and he's not going to like that. So maybe he'll write to the Guyana National Broadcast Authority asking them to do something about Ben Sharp's radio license. Speaking of which, they always want to do something about Ben Sharp's radio license, right? They always want to do something. Picking on Poe, little me. Ben Sharp, I don't know. But you know the story of David and Goliath, right? You know what happened with that big giant. Right? Speaking of David, hey, good evening. If the former president, for many of us, he's still the president of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. If he's listening, good evening to that gentleman, David Arthur Granger, as well as good evening to every single one of you. I appreciate the fact that you guys are on. I appreciate the fact that you guys put your boots on to watch this show, because since we're not seeing boots on the ground, we might as well have some sort of a different kind of boots in the air. Boots, speaking of boots not being on the ground or boots in the air, I wonder what these gentlemen are up to. And I know you remember them. I know you know who they are. Let me give them some free plug, because I know they have ads running, but I'm not begging them for any ads, right? We are here because of democracy, to promote and to talk about issues and so forth. And so we give them all the airtime they need on Ben Shap Radio. We are not running away from that. We are not going to give one more airtime over the other. It is not going to happen. So all of them will have airtime. In fact, I have promised all of them, if they want our program on Ben Shap Radio, 107.1 FM, they walk into the studio, they do their thing. I don't have a problem with that at all. All of them. Joseph Harmon. Hey, I've got to get him on this show. I need to ask him some questions, some really, really, really interesting questions, some of which I have no apologies for, right? But I want to have Joe Harmon, who happens to be the opposition leader, to come on. But Aubrey Norton, let me check what some of his supporters are saying about Aubrey tonight, because some of them, when they have this impression that people don't support Aubrey Norton, it's like, gosh, they want to chew you up and spit you back out. All sort of things they want to do to you. They're going to cuss you. They're going to abuse you. They're going to do all sort of things. And now I'm not saying all of Norton's supporters are like that at all. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that you guys are ruction, I'm not saying that you guys are going after people. Sorry about that. That's a comical laugh. I should not be doing that, because this is a serious program, right? And serious programs, we don't do those things. But good evening to all of Aubrey Norton's supporters. Where are they? I'm not seeing some of the regular ones. Somebody's saying here, let me see what this guy is saying. Derek McCalmont, good evening to you, sir. And look, this is the democracy that I like. Those of you who support Aubrey Norton, it's okay, fair game. Those of you who support Harmon or Van Charles, it is fair game. But I don't want you guys to come and cuss and abuse out and want to choke people as though people got to support Aubrey. And if people don't support Aubrey, you're going to pelt some people with bricks and bust their head and all these things. No. Not on this show. Go on some other show. Raise up the rope and go in the ring, and you guys pass way there. But not here. All right? Certainly not here, right? Tell Shara Duncan I say hi, because some of you guys love to say that Ben Shap is good at throwing shades and all these sort of things, right? Anyways, good evening to Aubrey Norton. He should be back hopefully soon. Aubrey Compton Norton. Let's go to Dr. Van West Charles. His campaign kicked off too. But we're not seeing any ads from these guys. It is as though Ben Shap Radio, which is a radio station, mind you, right? Which is a radio station. We don't get any ads. And people who don't have a radio station, they're getting a little bly, as they say, a little bly, right? These people got to start, these opposition politicians, they got to start showing some respect for Ben Shap Radio. They've got to do it. Because we don't run out here. We do have I wasn't going to go in this direction. We do have bills to pay, but we don't rush out with our bowls. Maybe we should rush out with our bowls, right? Maybe we should. Maybe we should say, hey, check out that Zelle number there, right? Check out the Cash App information. Hey, come on, guys, share the link. Check the Zelle out. Check the Cash App out. Check these things out, because we actually run a radio station. Sorry about that. You know how I am, a little bit naughty politically. All right, so those are the three main candidates. Here's what's happening before we get to our guest, the Honorable Winston Jordan, former Minister of Finance. And Jagdeo is always after a man. always after someone, always, and most of the someone that he's after are male. Naughty Mark, right? But then again, let's continue. Mr. Winston Jordan is here with us. We'll get to him shortly. But before we go to Mr. Jordan, I want you guys to take a look at this and tell me what you think the problem is. Look at this. What do you think? Are you seeing what I am seeing? And if we are seeing the same thing, then let me see how smart you guys are. I know you guys are smart. In fact, some of you are very smart. But let me see if you see what I am seeing. Now there's that red, it's there, and the red marker right underneath there, right there. What is that, you think? And do you think that it is disrespectful? Now, forget about this guy and his little ganja. They caught him with some, oh no, this is not the ganja guy. This is some guy that actually went in a yard, allegedly pretending to be a GPL meter reader, right? Pretending, that's the allegation. So they got this guy, they put him up against the wall, and I know that is Diamond Police Station. I should know that police station very well. I should know the lockups very well as also, right? So so let us look at what that MN stands for. Certainly isn't Minnesota, right? But you see, in 2021, thank you so much. Let me see, who's that? Good. Barbara, you got something big. You got something. Yeah, a big prize coming up. Now, look, it is male Negro, Jaleel Thomas, male Negro, Jamil Thomas, male Negro, Jamil Thomas, male Negro, 2021. The police force 2 or 3 years ago, they apologized for that. They stopped using it. And here it is. They're back at it again. Male Negro, Neville Day, thank you so much. Laverne Joseph, you guys got it. Male Negro. When is it going to stop? Patricia Botchway, thank you. Male Negro. Luther, how are you? Luther, Malcolm Luther. Good. Now look, male Negro. That is exactly what it is. Now I want to get the honorable former minister on, but just one more minute. So look, quarantine man found dead. This guy found dead. Another guy found dead in the lockups at Springlands lockup. And now they're saying that he probably died suicide or whatever. Now, Mr. Suku, right? I believe that's it. Mr. Suku, he had a problem with his wife. The police locked him up, put him in the lockup. He was supposed to appear in court tomorrow, but they found him dead. And they are saying by suicide. Now, how can the police say by suicide? It has to be a postmortem and let the pathologist pronounce on the cause of death. The police cannot say the cause of death is suicide. That is not their job. They can suspect that is what it is, but they cannot conclude that it was death by suicide. That is not their job. They have to be a proper investigation as to why this man, because the Springlands police station, again, I'm familiar with that police station and the lockups, right? I'm sorry about that. Nothing to boast or brag about that. But if you have the police desk not far away from the lockups and someone is in there, wouldn't you keep an eye on that individual? Wouldn't you hear something? Now, I am not going to rush to buy this death by suicide so quickly. I am not going to do that. I'm not that gullible. So I am not going to do it. They need a proper and an independent investigation. That's all. That's all they need. Now, how are they going to do that? When this guy, who is supposed to be conducting these sort of investigations, I believe, the Police Complaints Authority, the chairman, his job is up in limbo because his contract hasn't been renewed since the beginning of October. It has expired since then. So the Police Complaints Authority, that is in limbo in terms of having a chairman. I don't know what's happening. You got the Police Service Commission, no chairman. That is also up in limbo. I don't know. Maybe they should just go back to that song that we are all familiar with. I don't know how many of you are familiar with that song. Limbo, limbo, Sally. Oh, limbo, limbo, Sally. I remember that song as a little kid attending Ross Nursery School. And I always felt like a genius because I knew that song from inside out, all the words, because I repeated the same thing about 10 times. Limbo, limbo, Sally. Maybe I'll ask Minister Jordan whether he remembers that song or not. Or back in his time, they may have had some other kind of song. I don't know. But, let's get ready to bring that gentleman on. But before we do this, one other thing I got to bring to your attention, Freddie Kissoon. He apologized. He went down on his knees. I don't know what else he did to Ralph Ramkaran, but he was crying like a little baby, right? This is Freddie Kissoon apologizing to Ralph Ramkaran. Again, caught in another big lie. Lies, lies, lies. Here's Freddie Kissoon. Let me say up front, there was no intention to lie on Mr. Ramkaran. In writing the column, there was no intention to attack Mr. Ramkaran. The dispute happened a long time ago, almost 30 years ago, so there would have been some gray areas of memory. Speaking of gray area of memories, Freddie Kissoon, he's right. Gray area of memories. It happened such a long time ago that he couldn't remember the story whether he was sued or not by Ralph Ramkaran. Speaking of crying, hey, after spending 3 nights in Brickdam lockups, there is Freddie Kissoon alongside that guy, that handsome guy, just stepped out of the Brickdam police station lockups after spending 3 nights on some silly, dotish alleged traffic violation. And we were actually released on bail, $1, one Guyana dollar bail. I don't know whether Freddie paid back that individual or not, but I didn't. But for 3 nights, speaking of crying, we'll talk about that some other time, because I am tough. I am not the one who, I don't cry. So it certainly wasn't me who cried for 3 nights inside of Brickdam police station lockups. That is no longer around, the police station lockups. Let's get to my guest this evening at 23 minutes after 9 o'clock. Former Minister of Finance, the Honorable Winston Jordan. Good evening to you, sir.
Good evening to you, Mark. Good evening to you and your viewers.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I am not sure. I saw you smiling in the studio when I mentioned that song, Limbo, Limbo, Sally. Do you remember that song?
I can't say I do. In fact, I was laughing at you singing it as opposed to the song itself.
How have you been, sir?
I've been good. Keeping to myself as I've done since August the 2nd last year. I'm double vaccinated, but I still keep away from this COVID business because I have what they call underlying conditions, so I have to stay indoors most of the time.
Yeah. All right. Let me just quickly, before we begin with this Guyanese politics, let me say to you guys who are now tuning in, we have some reporters on with us listening, and they're saying that Eric Adams, the borough president of Brooklyn, New York, has won. He has won. So it is going to be official later on, but that is not unexpected. We all expected Eric Adams to win. Curtis Sliwa wasn't doing that well in the poll. So congratulations to Eric Adams, the second African-American person to hold that office. He will be sworn in on January 20th of next year. Goodbye, Bill de Blasio, who may be running for governor, and welcome to our new mayor of New York City, Eric Adams, former policeman. Thought I'd get that out of the way, Mr. Jordan. Again, good to have you on the show. Bharat, Jagdeo and the PPP guys seem to have some sort of love affair, political love affair with you. Recently, Bharat Jagdeo has gone right back again into attacking the works of Soku, attacking every single one, every single thing, and he didn't spare you. What exactly is happening with this love affair between yourself and Jagdeo?
Well, I really don't know. I mean, when I demitted office on August the 2nd of last year, I what they say rolled away into the sunset because essentially for me, politics and me were over. I keep saying it over and over. I was not really a politician. I'm more a technical, professional person than a politician, and I thought I did my best in terms of the 5 years of service, and I was going to go home and relax for a considerable period, especially with the COVID pandemic on, assist my grandson who was being schooled virtually, catch up on some reading and so on and so forth. And generally just laze about because now I am not under any particular pressure. And then sometime around November of last year, I saw Nandalal coming out with some set of allegations and insinuations and so on and so forth. And I put out a statement there and then indicating that these things were absolutely false and that they were intended to tarnish my character. I mean, for me, that came out of what they call left field, so to speak. And roughly 9 months afterwards or so, Nandalal is again at it, talking about preparing files with criminal matters and sending them to police to investigate and so on. And again, I had to put out a statement indicating that these insinuations and allegations were baseless, they were false, they were malicious, and they were repugnant. And again, they were intended to tarnish my character and impugn my integrity, and I maintain that. And I think what has happened is that although I'm not politically active, I'm like now what you may call a social activist, armchair social activist, so to speak. So from time to time, I will speak on national issues, particularly where the coalition was concerned, where people trying to malign and misrepresent what the coalition did. And we did a bad job, a bad PR job of telling people exactly what we were doing and so on. But so now I have some time, I will put that out there. So people who either usurping what the coalition did as their own or trying to misrepresent what the coalition did, and to the extent that I have the time and I have the facts, I tend to put it out there. Also, I use their numbers, their data, their information, and so on, to do exact rebuttal, as I did in the case of I think it was the Dubai or Abu Dhabi story where Tashir had gone somewhere in Queens, I believe, in a holy place like the Hindu temple, to state that Ali, a Muslim, because he's a Muslim, he was bringing all this goodwill and investments to Guyana and so on. And I have to debunk the particular case to do with Qatar and the UAE, so to speak. So I see myself there as that kind of person who would come out, see what is there to criticize or give additional information to and so forth, and then go back into my shell. And in addition, of course, helping those young MPs in Parliament who may call upon my service, and for which I have been doing none more so than Roysdale, who happens also to be my personal lawyer. And I say congratulations to him on his second consecutive victory in relation to the matters to do with the constitutional agencies, and excellent lawyer, well-argued case, and I understand exceptionally sound decision that was put out by Justice Franklin Holder. So then comes Jagdeo. Well, of course, I was at the ministry when Jagdeo joined the Ministry of Finance in 1992. At that time, he and Ramon Gaskin, operated as two commissars, so to speak, breathing fire and brimstone into the ministry. At that time, I was away on a one-year Hubert Humphrey Fellowship, 1992-93. So by the time I came back, right, I wasn't there when the elections in 92 occurred. When I came back, I met this fellow who I heard was at state planning before. And that's another story that we will speak privately about, because he loves to mention that he was at state planning. Anyway, but
and the facts may say otherwise.
No, he was at state planning. Okay, there's a difference, as you well know. People being at one place, people employed at another place, people working at a place, people gaining experience at a place, and so on. But anyway, so he was there, and I think subsequently he was appointed junior minister. And of course, he's an ambitious fellow. So it's not long before he was appointed senior minister. But before he was appointed senior minister, I had resigned from the Ministry of Finance because I had gotten into a flaming row with Asghar Ali.
Who was then the Minister of Finance?
The Minister of Finance.
Yeah.
In which I accused his government of being racist. So from as far back as 1993, 94, I was accusing the government of racist because their policies that they were implementing seemed to me to be extremely one-sided and seemed to me to be excluding not only marginalized groups, for which African Guyanese are a marginalized group, right, but also other people. So I let him have it, so to speak. And, he said, well, Winston, I live in Jamaica so long, and I never experienced this kind of racism and blah, blah, blah. I said, in any case, I gone. When I gone, Jagdeo calls me and says, he's sorry to hear I have gone, and so on and so forth. You want me to come back in the ministry? I said, no, I wasn't coming back. Well, by 1995, of course, as I said, he was the senior minister, and he asked me to come back. Okay, so I told him I wasn't going to come back on an online position. I was going to come back in a consultant position. Long and short is that I went back to the ministry in 1995 and stayed there until 2007. But by the time he came president in 1999, he had wanted me to go across with him to ask the president. I refused because I indicated, like I'm indicating now and I will always indicate, I'm not a politician. Once you get across to ask the president, all your professionalism and so on get sucked in. So I said, if you wanted something done, I'll do it from the Ministry of Finance. But I'm not going to go across to ask the president. So I think from then, what was a amicable relationship started to go downhill. But for your viewers, let your viewers know again that they know that I was the brains behind all of those budgets that were presented by Jagdeo. So whenever he came to Parliament and I was doing budgets or speaking or so on economics and so on, he was very circumspect because he knew, right, that when it came to me, he had to become circumspect. But when I disclosed that I was the brains behind all of his budgets, I think that may have got him a bit furious and so on. And from since then, in fact, I don't ever recall him calling me Minister of Finance in the 5 years that I was in Parliament. And that is the kind of individual this person seems to be. But, Ali was there also when I was at Ministry of Finance. And he came to me on several occasions and thanked me for helping him out and so forth. I mean, the kind of individual I am, So I don't know now why they feel that they control you or they own you into the extent that you have to say or do or don't say or don't do what they feel might either be embarrassing them or making them feel bad or so on. I'm one individual, but apparently this one individual people look up to and listen to. So that is, I could only figure that they want to intimidate me or silence me or something of this sort. Well, I as I indicated on any number of occasions, they can't intimidate me, they can't silence me. Neither of the two. And no threats about preparing file to send for criminal charges and so on can deter me. I did my job. Every single soul who knows me, no. I was a no-nonsense minister who did his job, who treated people fairly, and so on. So I don't care how much file they claim that they can prepare. I did nothing in my capacity as a minister that was wrong, that was bordered on criminality, corruption, or any such thing. And I could say that without fear or favor. They can't threaten me or such. This is one ex-cabinet minister of the coalition. They cannot threaten me. I can tell you that.
All right, glad that you've said that. Former Minister of Finance, Mr. Winston Jordan, is with us this evening on 107.1 FM. And now let me ask you this, because his ego may have been shattered there a few minutes ago when you said that all of the budget, when he was Senior Minister of Finance, that you prepared. You were the brain behind that. You were the brain behind that. I remember you saying that right now, that you're the brain, my words, you're the brain behind that. A lot of his supporters might be shocked because they are of the view that Bharat bright, he good with maths. But here it is now, our former finance minister is saying that he was the brain behind those budgets when Bharat Jagdeo was senior finance minister.
That is, Mark, that is not a hidden thing. I think people in Tom, all these different other people knew. So in fact, when they wanted to criticize me or so on, they used to call me a backroom pencil pusher and different sort of things.
But this is the same guy, Mr. Jordan. Sorry, Mr. Bharat Jagdeo is the same guy who said that you don't know anything and you're the worst finance minister and all these sort of things. What's happening there?
Well, you see, to big up yourself, you have to belittle others. And when you see this individual, when he's not abusing out or cussing out, he's belittling. You know, I mean, the man has no compunction about belittling an educated man like, say, Granger. You know, he has no respect for people. You know, he had none for Janet Jagan, you know, and so forth. So he has no respect for people. He behaves in a vulgar manner sometimes, you know, and it's I don't know that this behavior I don't know his behavior 2 days ago by calling out Soku. I'm glad he did what he did though, because it shows very clearly what I've been saying. He begging, pushing Soku to find some charge to charge me. That's what he's telling Soku to do. In not so many terms, not so many words. For you to go cussing out Soku and saying, why you can't find a charge literally for this man? You got this man maybe on all these different programs, criticizing the government, criticizing me and so forth, you know, and people listening to you. Y'all find a charge, really disappear. You know, that is essence what he's trying to tell Soku. And I'm glad he did it, because your viewers and all of Guyana who got any sense of fairness will know that political persecution has entered the fray in such a short space of time. Nothing but political persecution. But again, as I said, they can't intimidate me.
And that's exactly what they want to do. That's exactly what they have done to others in terms of persecuting them. The list is quite long. Former CEO of Guyana Lands and Survey, Mr. Trevor Ben. You have former police officer, senior police officer Paul Slow, and lots of others fall into that category with trumped up charges, all because of these vindictive individuals like Jagdeo. Go ahead, sir. Yeah.
Listen carefully what is happening. They're going after African Guyanese. Okay? African Guyanese. Of all kinds. Professional ones, technical ones, vocal ones, whatever the case may be. And it doesn't matter to who. The disrespect being shown to African Guyanese, professionals, semi-professionals, public servants, you know, man in the street and so on, is unheard of from any other PPP government in such a short space of time. Unheard of. And
let me ask, go ahead, continue, sorry.
And
Continue.
this is something I believe that has to be nipped. I don't know if it's a bud still, but somewhere it has to be nipped. Because when I didn't look at this his press conference or anything, but I saw on Newsroom or something on Facebook when he was making this comment, and he was foaming at the mouth. And the level of disdain with which he was saying it, the level of disdain and so on is indicative of the disrespect that is being shown to African Guyanese in this country at this particular point in time. The Ghanaians are here, supposed to be here today or tomorrow, and I hope they're not tucked into a hotel or something of the sort, but that they mingle within the society and get a pulse of this particular society, especially the African Guyanese in this society for the short space of time that they might be here, and I hope coalition members and so forth make contact with them while they are here, and engage them. African groups that are in Guyana, make contact with them and engage them so that they don't leave with a one-sided picture of what is taking place in Guyana.
Well, one of the things that probably I would have done if I actually were in Guyana was to pick up a placard and go in front of the hotel where they're staying at, because I'm almost certain that they're staying at the Marriott, and to let them know what is happening in Guyana, and to have others to protest. The members of parliament should have put on their boots and head out there to protest so that the Ghanaians can know what is happening, particularly toward persons of African descent in Guyana, that things are not all hunky-dory. We saw the many lies. We heard the many lies Jagdeo spewed out there at that radio station 93.3 out in Ghana. Bunch of lies and more lies. And here it is now in Guyana, persons of African descent, mainly persons of African descent, are being persecuted under the installed PPP regime. You mentioned we got to get proper opposition and so forth towards these individuals. Maybe if the opposition was a bit more forceful, more aggressive in standing up to Jagdeo and his cohorts, maybe things would have been different.
I have to admit to you, Mark, that I'm somewhat nonplussed at the public non-reaction of let us say, first of all, President Granger, because what is happening here is that members of his cabinet are being selected and targeted. And on any number of occasions while the President Granger was president, he did have positive words for the members of his cabinet. And I don't believe that he can sit down any longer and remain silent as the persecution of several members of his cabinet, right, is going on, whether that persecution is real, perceived, or otherwise. I don't think he can remain silent as the head of cabinet. I don't think Prime Minister Moses Nagamutu, as the two I see in charge of that cabinet, can sit any longer and watch this kind of political prosecution taking place. I don't think that is right. And I believe, so from that level, I think something publicly will need to be said. At the level of the opposition, I feel, notwithstanding the private calls that have been made to me by several members of the opposition, including former cabinet colleagues, I believe public stance where these matters are concerned have to be made, and those have to be carried through the region and then, of course, carried internationally, because people think that what is going on in Guyana, people sometimes don't know what is going on in Guyana. But there's a rapidly growing political prosecution that is taking place in Guyana, and part of this gallop seems to stem from a scenario that suggests that the government has the police where they want them, and seems to think that they can win everything when it goes to the judiciary or the DPP and so on. Well, you see, because if a government and its officers believe that that is the case, then all kinds of trampling can take place without justice being given. And you're seeing it evolving all the time. So I don't think, as far as I'm concerned, that these high officials, particularly in the opposition, can continue to remain silent, or could just call privately and say, "Be with you," or and so on. Of course, I'm happy because they know me anyhow, and they know the other colleagues and so on and so forth. But I think they have to come out and say enough is enough. This prosecution cannot stand, will not stand, and we will not sit idly by and allow our colleagues to be politically prosecuted for work that they did in a government that was sovereign and everything.
I agree with you 100%. Nothing more to be added to that. The leadership should be more forceful. In fact, they should be forceful. They should be out there. And being forceful and being more out there doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be in the streets every day and violence and all. We're not talking about that. We're talking about being more forceful to confront these folks in the installed regime, especially when people, former cabinet ministers, members, ministers and members of parliament and so forth are being targeted by these vindictive folks in the PPP. Enough is enough. And my opinion that if the coalition had what it takes to confront these issues locally, regionally, and internationally as well, because you need an opposition party and leadership to confront these issues again outside of Guyana, to send letters to Congress and senators and so forth to take up that space and do what is necessary. It's not being done at all. This brings me to this next question. What is your take on the road to Congress? And I'm talking about Congress Place.
Well, Mark, the three people who have put up their hands for leadership, they're all friends of mine. I'm good friends with all three. I have no horse in the race or dog in the fight or so forth. I'm not a member of the PNC, but I'm a strong supporter of the PNC. I would like to see that party grow from strength to strength and form a united front. There's a lot of work to be done internally for the party, and there's a lot of work to be done in the interest of the nation. So I would have hoped that internally they could have got a consensus candidate. That would have been my hope. If they could have got a consensus candidate, it would have stop all of this and so on, and they could have saved time and get down to the hard business that they have to get down to. But be that as it may, I would hope that they will just conduct a clean campaign, devoid of any rancor, any stones throwing and so forth. Stick to the issues, because at the end of the day, they all have to work. Somebody's going to emerge victorious, and they will have to work with each other. We don't want a party that is fractured and splintered at the end of this, and the person who wins, it just become a Pyrrhic victory, so to speak. So that will be my charge to them, is, stay focused on the issues, eschew any personality and other attacks, so to speak, and just remember at the end of the day, it's a party that is bigger than all of y'all, and you'll have to work together. I would like to see, and here I agree with Rickford Bork. I'd like to see many young people putting up their hands and coming forward to serve on the central executive and assisting in the broadening of groups, because that is a sad mistake that I believe the PNC made in the breaking up of many of their groups. all right, because that is where the young people can excel and come through the ranks and so forth. So I'd like to see them having many, many more groups formed in the different regions. I'd like to see vibrant GYSM and a vibrant WRSM. WRSM did wonderful work back in the day. Together with Vansuram, they did a lot of tie-dye and batik and, and all these different things. I'd like to see a lot of our young people, particularly our young women, engaged in these different activities that they can help themselves and become small entrepreneurs, so to speak. So there's a lot of work to be done. The party finances, I believe, they need to be on a formal footing. Even though I wasn't a member of the party, I'd strongly recommend to anybody who would listen to me that they form an economic and commercial arm, so that they can employ any number of their supporters in mass activities. I talked to several members, at least 10 different members, but unfortunately in those 5 years, I don't know that anything was done, but I think that will have to be a number one priority. So you also reduce this business of depending on certain key businessmen for financing, because when you depend on their financing, your party is held hostage, so to speak. Whoever pays the piper calls the tune, and therefore your arsenal, your tactics, and so on are lessened because you depend on certain people. And unfortunately, in this case, many businessmen have two horses in the race: one PPP, one PNC. They have a gelding perhaps in the PPP and a filly in the PNC. But at the end of the day, it's the filly who feels it the most, so to speak. So I would like to see the party branch out on a sounder form of footing financially, so that they don't have to depend. On businessmen. And I'm all for campaign financing, because the vulgarity of finances that took place in the 2020 election, I think was unheard of in this country, unseen in this country, and now you're seeing some of the paybacks that are taking place in this country, so to speak. That is why you can't get a local content going. That is why you can't get a local content going. And by the time you end up with it, it's going to be a watered down version of whatever they were saying. Right?
Lots of paybacks indeed. We're seeing that, lots of that.
So that will be some of my initial views on the PNC Congress.
And they're not bad though, as it pertains to young people. In 2001 elections, Mr. Hoyt had a heck of a lot of young people there on that list. And some of them went into parliament. And my view is, it's not so much the rantings about young people. Yes, young people should be involved. We saw a lot of those young people when Burnham was, President Burnham was in office, and we saw the same approach in the 2001 elections. Lots of young faces, lots of them, a mixture of every ethnic group. So this is not the first time. It's nothing new. That talk about young people is every elections. And I think Mr. Hoy demonstrated that. I also think Mr. Granger had that in mind. He did that as well. Got a lot of young people in government, in offices, a lot of young members of parliament as well. And for the PNC, I believe that was the case, even though the YSM has been dormant for many, many years. It has not been living up to what it should have. But let us hope with a different style of leadership this time around, things can be a little different for the party. Let's get back to Jagdeo and the threats and all these things. Jagdeo believes that whenever he threatens people, whenever he threatens police, men and women to go out there and do illegal things, to trump up charges against individuals, he expects them to just shiver and just fade away. Not Winston Jordan.
No, not me. Sorry. Not me at all. Not me at all. So he and all them, they can try, but they will not succeed in intimidating me. And whenever, if anybody comes up with a trumped up charge, I have recourse and redress. My lawyer has already prepared for any such trumped up charge or so on. I have legal recourse and legal redress where that is concerned.
Those political vagabonds, vindictive individuals, that is how they are. That is how they're running the country. That is why they have to continue to be exposed internationally. A lot of groups, a lot of people are writing to the senators. They're writing to their congressmen. So far, no one yet in the Guyanese community has been invited into Congress to address Congress. Absolutely no one. But I do hope that that day will come when Guyanese will be invited to Congress. And I'll be willing to go into Congress and tell them also. I'll be willing to do just that. But so far, no one has done that at all. I hope it happens very soon. Mr. Jordan, before we go though, the ABC countries are so quiet about these human rights violations in the country. Why you suppose they are so quiet?
Well, when you're out of power, unless you have a very strong network, which you would have had to build through the years and so forth, so that you could call upon say the Black Caucus in the United States, the Mayor de Blasio or the new mayor that is coming in, and so forth. People who you would have either made contacts with, or your groups or your other people there would have made contacts, your lobbying groups and so on. That is the kind of connections you have to make to get your story out, so to speak. We had a very vibrant involvement, and I say we, I mean the PNC had a very vibrant involvement, even when a number of leaders in the Caribbean had an issue with Bornum. Bornum still had a stature in CARICOM, that prevented any fallout, any negative fallout or anything negative coming to his government and so on. Those who say they are Bornum, they need to learn the strategies and tactics of Bornum. And he was very strong there. The other day I was speaking that what happened to the fraternal relations between parties and parties. In Bornum time, the PNC had fraternal relations with virtually so many parties in Africa. Tanzania, Zambia, Uganda, Nigeria, Ghana, South Africa, Mozambique, Angola, all these different places, Zimbabwe, they had fraternal relations with the parties. In CARICOM, I know for sure they had fraternal relations with Trinidad and Barbados and all these different places, Grenada and Mauritius and so on. So what has happened to those fraternal relations? Because those are vital for any number of reasons. I heard Rick Ford talking about training the other day. Part of these fraternal relations helped in training, where you could send people. A number of people I know from Guyana, Vincent Alexander, for example, they went to Kaivukoni College in Tanzania, a training institute, right? Bino from Linden, he also went there, and so on. So the party has to build back that relationship. If they had relations with Ghana, for example, you think Jagdeo could have gone there and spew all that thing that he was spewing on that 1 hour program there without the lady being properly informed and briefed and so forth? If they had that kind of contacts in Ghana, So I think that is a lesson learned. They have to build a PR. They have to build a PR base, and luckily, you don't have to be flying people in the plane and all kind of thing. You have the internet. You have social media and all these different things. You could constantly be in contact with people. So there's no justification for not getting your story out into the halls that matter in the big countries, in the medium countries, in the small countries. There's no reason why that can't happen.
Absolutely, I agree with you 100%. And in keeping in touch with some of those people at the radio station, where he spewed a bunch of lies, some of the folks did indicate that when he was asked about that particular question, in terms of race relations and so forth, I believe something close enough to that, he was very, very uncomfortable. He started to sweat, as you can see his facial expression there. Mr. Jordan, but I do agree with you. Relationships should have been formed with other leaders and other political parties. In fact, even our operator, Lemon is not a politician, but he knows that that needs to be done. These guys in the coalition, these guys in the PNC should know that such relationships are important when you're in government and when you're out of government. Trainings and all these things, and the training of which you spoke of, that was during an era that countries during the Cold War, they were after each other in terms of training and so forth. They seem to have been more possible then. But the kind of trainings that we see now seem more geared towards police officers, police training, military officers, and these different things. But let it get back to the party level. I agree with you 100%. In light of democracy, these people talk about democracy being restored and all sort of nonsense. I know the ABC countries, those who are representatives of the ABC countries in Guyana, they're very, very quiet on these human rights violations, persecution, and so forth. Do you think, as a former Minister of Finance, the way Jagdeo is behaving, going after people out of being vindictive, out of some sort of hatred towards a particular group, do you think that looks well for investors?
Well, look, this oil is a blessing and a curse, so to speak, because of the magnitude of the oil. It's not 800 million barrels. It's 10 billion. Okay, so it's not like a little torchlight shining in the eye. This is a whole truck beam, so to speak. So people are busy trying to get fixation on this 10 billion than your little, what they perceive to be little problem. As long perhaps they don't continue any extrajudicial killing that going hurt the people or force them to say something, I don't think they are going to quietly say you solve your own problem. In this country, check it out. Hoyt made such a massive difference. Why? He was able to, first of all, assert in no uncertain terms that he wasn't about to stick nonsense. If you remember, I don't know if you remember the issue of Rosinante Co-op, when on some allegation of some people were going to take lands that from this Rosinante Co-op that was a black society. And apparently there might have been some Indian people who were trying to take lands or whatever the case may be. And I think Hoyt went down there and told them in uncertain terms that they had a right to defend their property. And I think either there afterwards or soon there afterwards and so on, the PPP government had a different tactic when they used Hoyt. And of course, when Hoyt was able to put boots on the ground, 20,000, 30,000 people and so on, that will attract regional and international, because that can lead to destabilization of a country, and they would not want that, and they will have to speak up. But they're not going to speak up now, So the first and foremost thing is the opposition has to do its job so that it can attract the attention of the ABC countries and so on. All right? It has to be a multi-pronged strategy. It's not just one thing and then wait that out and then you move on to the next thing. It has to be a multi-pronged approach. A multi-pronged approach that will involve eventually the ABC countries and the CARICOM countries and the countries internationally. Otherwise, people are just going to be fixated in what part they can get of our oil revenues, which is what they are really and truly doing right now. You think an ABC person is going to go out there shouting left, right, and center if the last 10 investments worth $1 billion US went to companies from their country? Economic and international relations don't operate that way. Look how long it took apartheid to die, or because the ABC countries were hot in there. Look at Chile, when they got rid of Pinochet, of Allende, Salvador Allende, and so on. Once their interest is being served, they have no time for what they might think is a domestic squabble and so on. As long as the domestic squabble don't get out of hand, they're quite happy to lay back and tell you, look, man, go and solve the problem, so to speak. So I think in the case of Guyana, that is what they have essentially done. They say, listen, man, it's a little petty squabble y'all got and so on. Yeah, look, y'all solve it. You understand? But in the meanwhile, their companies from their countries are getting in big chunks, right, of investment, or being promised big chunks. I mean, next year, auction blocks, auction oil blocks.
Big chunks indeed. Big chunks indeed. And I agree with you. Once they get that big chunk or the big chunks, to hell with the little squabbles within the country.
That's
to
right.
Hell with that. Just
spot.
as long as they don't get out of hand.
As long as don't get out of hand.
Makes a heck of a lot of good sense. In the event I haven't asked you something in your closing remarks, address our listeners, please, as we leave this evening.
Mark, it's always a pleasure coming on your program. As you know, it's only about an hour ago you approached me, and my eyes were placing down by then. But it's Mark. If Mark calls you, you gotta come. So yeah. I was happy to come here, and I won't call it defend myself, because as I said, most people who were calling me said, man, why is this man, why are they going after you? After all, you help them and all kind of thing. I said, well, I'm a peaceful chap. I sit down here, I ignore both of them, because as I said, I have done nothing. I've done nothing wrong in my 5 years. In fact, I believe I had a stellar 5 years. I'm proud of what I've been able to accomplish in that 5 years for the coalition government and for the country as a whole. And I really don't take on either those two folks. But what I can tell you is this tarnishing of my character doesn't sit well with me. Does not sit well with me. And as I said, my lawyer and I have developed a bit of a strategy which I will hold close to my chest for the time being. So I will, as they say, grin and bear for the time being, so to speak.
All right, thank you so much, and you have the people behind you, and we hope that Jagdeo and his cabal, they know that enough is enough, because there's only so much people can take. Mr. Jordan, thank you so much for your bravery, and thank you so much for taking time out your busy schedule this evening. Thank you, sir. Have a good night. All right, Mr. Winston Jordan there. Hey, guess what? Quickly before we go, we appreciate the fact that he is out here and he's saying, one of the things that caught my attention, though, is that he did all of the budgets for Bharat Jagdeo. And a lot of you, his supporters, a lot of you who are watching, who are listening quietly to this show, you never knew that, huh? You never knew that. It was Winston Jordan. But watch Jagdeo gets ticklish. Watch his bumps raise. Watch his bumps raise. He's going to get into his ricketics. Maybe I was about to say something else about the feminine side, because, they say that men have a little feminine side, and some probably, I don't know, but he's going to get into his ricketics by tomorrow morning. He's going to want to start scratch. He may call up Soku Head, that guy who shot off the little 14 or 13-year-old boy's leg out in New Amsterdam Berbice, right? He may call that guy Karim Bach, and he may say to Karim Bach, ensure that you do X, Y, and Z. And Karim Bach, being the little pussycat that he is, may just rush to do what Massa says need to be done. That's how the Guyana police force is being run right now. But I'll tell Jagdeo this, and I'll tell Anil Nandalal this. It is not the best route to go, because it may very well backfire on all of them in the PPP. It has happened before, and I'm saying to them, Don't let it go that route again. And to those of you in the Guyana Police Force, be careful with taking illegal instructions. Again, I repeat, be careful with taking illegal instructions, because this time, not a long time. If you can't be caught in Guyana legally, you will be caught outside of Guyana. If you wouldn't be sanctioned by the installed PPP regime in Guyana, you will be sanctioned outside of Guyana, one way or the other. Again, as we began about a story that allegations being leveled against some members of the Guyana Police Force who are part of a passport racket, where notorious individuals in Guyana are being issued with passports, fake names. I'll speak more about that tomorrow. I'll keep my mouth shh for now. Shh for now. All right, but for now, guess what? Anything else before we go? Let me see here. Anything else before we go? Because we know that those guys in the PPP, the trench crappos, some of whom are watching, they're commenting, they can't have a proper discourse. They got to curse, they got to go on because their bumps raise. And you know what I mean when I say their bumps raise. You know what I mean, don't you? All right, good. But we've got to go. I'll be back tomorrow. Same place, same time. My name is Mark Benchap, and for now, have yourselves a wonderful rest of the evening. But I do hope, though, that the police, they'll stop using that MN initials. MN, male Negro, male Negro. What's happening there? Male, I hope the Ghanaians who are in Guyana can see these things. Male Negro, male Negro. When is it going to stop? When will it be, put to a stop? When will it stop? What are the African organizations doing in Guyana? Even the opposition should take this up. Male Negro. Jalil Thomas, male Negro. I don't know, man. I just don't know, right? I just don't know. Congratulations to Eric Adams, borough president of Brooklyn. He has won the mayoral elections. He will be sworn in on January 20th as the second African-American to become mayor of the city of New York. Congratulations, Eric. Congratulations. A well-deserved victory. And to Curtis Lewa, better luck next time. But for now, I've got to go, and I don't know what's happening in other neck of the woods, but out in some other parts, they had some other mayors, other persons who were running for mayors. Some of them I've been able to meet, some personally, but I'll talk about that tomorrow as well. Because the days are gone when I, become excited with politicians and so forth. I prefer to stay in the back room at my desk and do lots and lots of political mischief. Good mischief, good trouble. That's what it is. All right, until tomorrow, same place, same time. Gotta go. Bye-bye. Love you all. Until.
body and